So now we're going to talk about the most important, if there is a position in golf that counts, and that's impact. So how do we get to impact? So you need to identify where you want to be so you get a feel for the most important position. So here's what we're going to do. So I've got my grip, got my posture, and my distance from the ball. Now, when I'm going to go to impact, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to move a little weight to my left foot. I'm going to push my left hip out of the way. So when I push my left hip back and out of the way, what that does is I push my left hip back and out of the way. It pushes my right hip forward, my right shoulder down, and my left shoulder up. And my right arm now goes down, so now it's right on the back of the shaft plane. So when I start out in my setup, my right arm with my full swings isn't necessarily right on the shaft plane. But when I go to impact, I go from here, where does my right arm go? So that happens because I push my left hip out of the way, which changes this hip, which changes my shoulders, and now there's my impact position. That's right where I want to get at impact. And you can see that my right arm's right on the back of the shaft. All right, so now what we're going to do is I want you to see what impact looks like to me from my eyes. Where are my hands? Where does it look like the club is? Because again, we're getting into visual concepts, and you need to understand what it looks like. For me to just show you that and you to see it from there or see it from this camera over here, you got to know what it looks like from your perspective. And that's where a lot of the confusion comes, is you don't really know what it's supposed to look like. So once I show you how the club lines up, where your hands need to look, now all of a sudden you've got a chance of understanding where impact is. So now we're in our setup position. Now if you notice the line on the club face, there's a line on the hosel, and what I'm going to do is as I go to impact, what's going to happen is that line on the club face is going to line up with the line that's going up the hosel. Now if you look at where my hands are, it looks like my hands, from my position, it looks like my hands are way in front of my left foot, but they're really not. So there's the visual concept of impact. So I go back to address. You see what the line did on the club. You see where my hands are. Now I'm going to go to impact. Back to address. Now we're going to impact. Those lines, that line on the club face, where my hands are relative to my left leg, that's a very important picture, and it looks like the shaft is leaning way forward. It's not leaning forward as much as it looks. So now that we have a good visual of where impact is, so now here's what we're going to do now. So now we set up, we know what it looks like, so we're set up here, and we're going to go to impact and just copy that position. So you keep going from setup to impact, setup to impact, setup to impact, because you want to ingrain what that impact position is, because if you don't, that position is what drives everything we do in our golf swings. That's what the tour players are really good at. They feel that impact position, and as they swing, they know where they're going to get when they hit the ball. So even if their swings are a little off, boom, they come right into impact, square the club face on the ball, boom. That's why they can hit so many great solid shots, even off funny lies and with weird swings, because they know what that impact position is. So all of you want to hit the ball far. Well,
I've been competing in long drives since 2016.
this starting static and not having any left to go right thing that came up in the 80s has really hurt a lot of people relative to creating speed.
All right, we're going to cover 3 speed drills, very simple. I'm just going to try to fight for some more. As much as I can. It's about force production. Your nervous system has to light up, sending signals to the brain.
So the grip's important because it gets this lever system so that the joints work the way they should work to hit a golf ball.
Let's get those things down, because there's a lot of speed there with the arms that people just don't use, in my opinion. Where if someone's over the top, and that's where people get so frustrated, what that's going to produce is a shot that starts left and has a ton of spin. As we're hitting up on the drive, 40 or 50 yards.
40, yeah, whatever.
350,
Whatever.
360.
You're going to hit it farther.